Have you been told to practice your major scales like this? While this is a great way to build piano technique, in my opinion, this is not the best way to practice your major scale because it focuses too much on the technique and not enough on truly understanding the scale so that you can use it in your piano playing. If you truly want to master your major scale, you need to explore it from 5 essential angles, not just play it up and down the piano like so many teachers recommend. So in today's lesson, I'm going to teach you 5 essential exercises that you've probably never heard of. We're going to start with a beginner exercise and work our way up to the advanced level. And after you go through these exercises, you're going to have a brand new understanding of the major scale, and you'll finally be able to play the scale with confidence. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, the level 1 exercise is for early beginner pianists, or if you're a complete beginner, I'll play the exercise and then I'll break it down. Now for this exercise, you're going to play the scale up and down the piano, but instead of playing the hands together like this, you're going to play it over one of the most important progressions called the 2-5-1. And this progression is used in literally hundreds of tunes, so it's a very practical progression to practice over when you're practicing your major scale. So for the right hand, we're going to use the standard fingering. We're going to go C, D, E, cross the thumb under to the F, play the rest of the scale up, and then we play the same fingering coming down. This time we're going to cross the middle finger over to the E and play the scale down. But what makes this exercise sound so good is that you're swinging your notes, meaning instead of going 1 and 2 and 3, you're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, okay? So as you practice the scale, make sure you're swinging your notes. For the left hand, we're going to use this cool chord progression called the 2-5-1 chord progression. It is so simple to play. We have the D and the F. This is our 2 chord in the key of C major. Then we're going to go to a G7. This is our 5 chord. And then our 1 chord, C and E. This is a C major chord. So 2, 5, 1. Lastly, you want to play this with a little groove. So what I recommend is that you play it like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And here are the hands together slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, once you're feeling good about this, you can practice this in other keys. So for example, your next scale, you could do the G major scale, which has an F sharp in it, and so you can do the same thing. You can go to your 2 chord, which is an A minor, your 5 chord, which is a D, and then back to your 1 chord, which is G. All right, next we're going to go to level 2, and if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. All right, the level 2 exercise is for late beginner pianists. I'm going to play this exercise, and then we'll break it down. Isn't that beautiful? And what I love about this exercise is that you're going to explore the harmonies that come from your major scale using a very cool technique called inner voice movement. And here's how it works. We're going to start on a 2nd inversion C major chord. We're going to put the root on the bottom, and then what you're going to do is you're going to swap that C out for a B. This is the 7th note of your C major scale, and then we're also going to drop the 5th out of the chord, and we have this beautiful chord now called a C major 7. Now here's the magic. We're going to play this chord and drop that inner voice down to the next note of the scale. You hear that? So we have 1, and then you're going to do the same thing on the next chord, that D minor 7. We're going to bring this down to the B. Isn't that beautiful? And then the same pattern, okay? This is called an E minor 7. Bring that down to C, F major 7, down to D. This is called a G7, down to E. This is called an A minor 7, down to F. This is called a G add 2 over B. We're going to bring that down here, and we end on our C chord. And then you can play the same exact thing coming down. You see the pattern? This exercise is very powerful because it teaches you about the harmonies that come from your major scale. So when you play scales, it's not about just playing 7 notes that come from the scale, but what you learn is that there are actually chords that belong to your major scale, okay? And so this exercise really teaches you that you've got these beautiful harmonies that are built into the scale. Now, once you're feeling good about this scale, I would encourage you to try this in some other keys. So you might go to the key of F major. Here's the F major scale, and you play the same exercise. So there's that F major chord. We drop this down to the 7th of the scale, remove the 5th, and we start the pattern. All right, before I teach you the next level, if you want to do a deep dive on how to improvise with your major scale, we have a great course on this topic called How to Improvise a Solo with the Major Scale. This is for the beginner to intermediate level. We'll talk about the major scale, the best fingering, exercises to practice it, the best chord progressions to use with your major scale, different left-hand accompaniments, how to improvise using block positions and different rhythmic exercises. And then we'll talk about different soloing techniques like using steps, using skips, outlining chords, soloing over multiple chords using the major scale, and I answer the most commonly asked questions. So I'll put a link to this course below. All right, level 3 is for the early intermediate level. I'll play the exercise and then break it down. This exercise is important because you'll learn about your musical modes. And your modes are all of the scales that come from your C major scale, and there are 7 of them. So if you play a C major scale starting on C, we call this C Ionian. And if you play a C major scale starting on D, we call this D Dorian. And the same thing on E. We call this E Phrygian, and F Lydian, G Mixolydian, A Aeolian, and B Locrian. They're basically all the C major scale, but you're starting on a different note of the C major scale. And the modes are very important to learn because if you're improvising over a chord like a C minor 7, what scale would I use to improvise over this? Well, I could use the C Dorian scale. This is the same as the B flat major scale, but it's starting on C. And it sounds really nice if I want to improvise. So going back to the exercise, what I love about this exercise is that you quickly explore all 7 modes of your major scale, and here's how you do it. First, let's look at the left hand. We're going to play all of the diatonic 7th chords that come from the C major scale. So this is called C major 7, and then D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, and you literally play this same shape up the piano to get all of your diatonic 7th chords. Then in the right hand, you're going to play your major scale, but instead of coming down on the C, you're going to go up to the D and play your D Dorian scale, coming down to the D, okay? So up on the C major, and then down on D. And then we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to start on the E and play E Phrygian, going up to the E, and then we're going to come down F and play F Lydian. You see what we're doing? And then G Mixolydian, okay? And then A Aeolian, and finally B Locrian, and we end on C Ionian, okay? Now, the fingering can be a real issue for students because if you learned your C major scale, you're probably not used to going up one more note and then coming back down. Now, there are many different ways that you can finger this particular exercise, but the way I recommend that you do it is to use the standard fingering for your C major scale, which is that you're going to put your thumb on the C and your thumb on the F pretty much the entire time, okay? So quick review on the fingering. We're going to come up C scale. And then on the C, we're going to go thumb. And for D, we're going to use the 2, and we're going to bring this back down. There's the thumb, cross over 4 to the B. Standard fingering, third finger on the E. And now we take the E up with the third finger. Thumb under to F. We're going to bring this up, standard fingering, thumb on the C. And on the F, it's the 4th finger. We're going to bring it down. 4 finger crosses over. And 2 finger starts the G, thumb under to C. Okay, now this is a tricky one. We're going to go thumb under to the F, and we're going to take the A down. So a lot of crossing there. 3rd finger, 4th finger. And now for the B, this is a weird one. We're going to start on the 4th finger, thumb under to C, thumb under to F, and C down. And for this one, it's the standard fingering. Now, just like the last exercise, you're going to want to swing these notes. Okay, so in other words, it's long, short, long. Long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. You could play them straight, but in my opinion, it is not as interesting as swinging the rhythm. Lastly, you're going to want to groove on the left hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and here's how the hands come together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you continue this pattern for the rest of the exercise. Now, once you're feeling good with this exercise, I encourage you to start practicing it in some other keys. And so if you want to challenge yourself a little bit, you can try this in maybe the key of D flat. So go up a half step and try playing this exercise. So how would you do this? Well, it's the D flat major scale. And then you're going to play it on the E flat. And then the F. G flat, okay? And you're going to continue this pattern up and down the piano. By the way, I wanted to mention that the lesson sheet music is downloadable and printable. You can also change the key of this entire lesson with the click of one button with our smart sheet music. So I'll put a link to all of that below. All right, level 4 is the late intermediate exercise. I'll play the exercise for you and then I'll break it down. Now, this is a very powerful exercise because it takes you through all 12 of your major scales very quickly. And the key with this exercise is that it helps you smoothly transition between each of your major scales. But you might be thinking, Johnny, why is this important? Why do I need to be able to smoothly transition between different major scales? Well, sometimes when you're improvising over a song, you might want to be able to use different scales to create a piano solo. For example, if you're playing the tune All the Things You Are, the first 5 chords of this tune are in the key of A flat. Okay, and then after this chord, you're actually going to switch to a new key, which is the key of C major. Okay, and so if you're improvising a solo, you might want to mix your A flat major scale with your C major scale in an interesting way, like this. Did you notice how I switched between the A flat scale to the C major scale, but it was very smooth, meaning you may not have noticed that I actually switched between two different major scales. And the way that I was able to do this is by practicing this exercise that I just played for you. So how does this exercise work? Well, you're basically going to play your C major scale coming up using the standard fingering, but instead of coming down C major scale, you're going to come down D flat major. Okay? And then once you come down D flat major, you're going to come up D major. Okay? You see the pattern? And then E flat major down, and then E major up, right? It gets tricky because you're switching scales really quickly, and so you really need to think ahead, what scale am I going to? I'm going to G flat. Okay, what's my G flat major scale? Oh, now I'm going to G. Okay, so it really forces you to think ahead of where you're going. And this is one of the hallmarks of a great improviser, is they can switch scales really easily. From here, I'm going to go to A, and then I'm going to go to B flat, and then I'm going to go to B, and finally, I'm going to end on my C, okay? Now for the fingering, it can get a little tricky, so I want to quickly review this. We're going to play the standard fingering for C, coming up, thumb on the F, and thumb on the C. D flat is 2 finger, standard fingering 4, okay? 3, 2, and on D, we're going to go to the thumb, standard fingering on the D, thumb on the D again, and we're going to come 3rd finger down on the E flat, 4th finger on the B flat. We're going to go 3rd finger on the E flat and cross the thumb under to the E, standard fingering, thumb on the A, thumb on the E, 2 finger on the F. We're going to bring this down, 2, 1, 2, 1. It's a little different. And then 4, 3, 2, 1. G flat major is 2. Then we're going to go thumb on the B, 2 on the G flat, and now 3rd finger on the G, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2. Okay, so that's a little different. A flat, we're gonna go 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. A comes down on the 4, and 4 again on the D. We're almost done. B flat, we're gonna come up on the 2, 3, 1, and then on the B, we're gonna come down from the 5, okay? So that's your fingering, and then you can end on C to finish the exercise. For the left hand, you're going to play all of the chords that come from each of these scales. So on the C scale, you're going to use a C major 7, okay? On the D flat, you're going to use a D flat major 7, okay? And you're going to do this on all of your chords. D major, okay? It's a D major 7, and then E flat, right? Same chord. E major 7, and you're literally going to play this up half steps as you play each of the major scales. Now I encourage you to swing it as you play it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so they're lining up 1 and 2 and then you do this the whole time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, before I teach you level 5, if you're an intermediate to advanced level student and you really want to understand how you can improvise with the major scale, we have our intermediate to advanced level course on this topic where we'll explore the best fingering and exercises for the major scale, 11 chords that you can use the major scale over to improvise, common chord progressions, left hand accompaniments, and then some amazing right hand techniques using triad pairs, outlining 7th chords, turns, patterns, using the scale to improvise over multiple chords, and I answer your most common questions, so I'll put a link to that course below. All right, level 5 is the advanced exercise. I'll play it for you and then we'll break it down. This exercise is very important because it will help you to start identifying and playing patterns that come from your major scale. And a pattern is basically when you take a certain melody or a certain set of intervals and you repeat them in different spots of the scale. As an example, a very basic pattern could be this. And then you can play the same pattern on D. Okay? And this is very important if you want to solo at the piano and you want to do some interesting things with your major scale. When I just played that little solo, I only used the 7 notes from the major scale, but I used patterns to create a really cool sound. So for this pattern exercise, we're gonna come up a C major 7. We're gonna come down to the F, then go G, and this is the trick. We're gonna move our 3rd finger to the F, and now we're gonna play the exact same pattern, but this time starting on the D. Bring it down to the G, come up to the A, and now 3rd finger on the G, and now play the same exact pattern on the E. 3rd finger on the A, and F. 3rd finger on the B, G. 3rd finger on C, okay? 3rd finger on D, and we're gonna end on the C. In the left hand, I recommend that you play all of the diatonic 7th chords that come from your C major scale, and I recommend that you groove on it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Once you're feeling good about this, I encourage you to practice this in some other keys. So for example, you could do this in the key of F major. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the lesson, please let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.